Welcome back to the Upper Tier Podcast, the football podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Audio versions of our show are also available on Anchor. So if you want to head over there and you fancy the audio show, that's where you'll find it. We're also available on all the socials. So you'll find us there, the Upper Tier. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you do your social media. Joining me today, an OG on the show, a regular on the Monday mashup and on the Legend series, Mark Hogan. Mark, how you doing, my man?
How's it going, Noel? Thanks for having me on, man.
Not a bother at all. Great to have you on. Obviously, we're going to have a chat about the collapse of the ESL, but we want to talk about it in terms of the impact on Man United and the Man United fan base, obviously, because obviously there's issues there. So let's go back again. Sunday evening, news broke. The ESL, European Super League. These 6 teams were going to break away. Man United, obviously, one of them at the forefront of it, obviously. Talk of Ed Woodward really pushing the narrative on this and being up there kind of nearly the head of it, if you like. What was you thinking when you first heard the news?
You know what? They announced it just before half time in the United Burnley game. And for the second half, I was just sitting there kind of trying to take it all in. I wasn't really focused on the match, that's the way. And you hear whispers of things like this, and then you think they won't happen. Like we've heard about Celtic and Rangers coming down to the Premier League for years. But it's just a dream, and that's what I thought it is. But then I turned on Sky Sports News after the United game, and for the whole of Sunday night I was just watching it, and I was thinking, this can't be real. This has to be some sort of bleeding nightmare or something.
Yeah, it was kind of difficult to comprehend. At first, when I heard it, I was kind of like a little bit excited about the potential fixtures and things like that, and we all know our feelings about UEFA and FIFA and the corruption and the difficulties involved in that and the stranglehold that the Premier League has on football and all those things. But then when I got into the nitty gritty of it, when they started talking about like no relegation and a closed shop and, not much detail in relation to the pyramid money coming down into other clubs and grassroots and stuff like that, it sort of became a little bit meaningless. Like I find with football, if there's no consequence, there's no real joy in watching it, really. We watch our team because we want our team to win. But if our team loses or draws or wins, there's a consequence.
Yeah.
If there's no consequence, if everyone stays in the league, no one gets relegated, no one really loses. Just someone at the end of it picks up a trophy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And what got me was when, I think it was Monday morning, I was watching Sky Sports News, and Perez had done an interview over in Spain, and he was saying he wanted to see United against Bayern Munich or AC Milan, and Real Madrid and all these things. And I was looking going, when has he ever had an interest in English football? He's just doing this for the money. That's why he was the president or chairman or whatever he was. He's doing it for the money. He knows Real Madrid are in such debt that this is their last chance to actually make some money. And I was thinking, listen, they're all businessmen, they're all snakes, but I just couldn't believe when he came out and said that. And like you said, then there was no, the format. No promotion, no relegation. What's the point? It's literally glorified friendlies, basically, between the top teams around Europe. So that's all it is.
Yeah, it was the exact opposite of what draws a football fan to football, in terms of like, you wear your heart in your sleeve and your colours on your body, and you're fully invested in it. It's an emotional roller coaster. But I was sort of thinking afterwards, you go out and you play Juventus and you win. You go out the next week and you play AC Milan and you lose.
Yeah.
The feeling's pretty much going to be the same.
Yeah, exactly. And now you know yourself from being a Liverpool fan, if like the thing about you talked about on the Monday mashup, the Champions League only gets interesting in the last 16, which it does. But that means when you face someone like a Real Madrid or Barcelona, you haven't played them in the 3 or 4 seasons, it makes it that bit more special as well.
Yeah,
I think Jurgen Klopp came out and said, imagine playing Real Madrid every second week for 10 years. You get bored of it.
Yeah, and imagine playing them every second week for 10 years with no consequence and nothing on the line.
Exactly, the gloss is all off it. Yeah,
they really did a very bad marketing campaign on this, and the timing of the release of it and all, and the lack of information and detail, and there was a lot of people sort of surmising what it might be and stuff like that. In terms of a European Super League, what was your thinking on that? If it was handled properly and it was an open contest, and it was obviously, you had to qualify for it with relegation, all that kind of thing, and the money was shared evenly, and there was a proper pyramid where money was earmarked for grassroots football and all, what would be your feeling as opposed to the Champions League at the moment?
I probably would have taken a bit more serious, to be honest with you. But then again, I'd like to see UEFA. I know they've come out with this new scheme and stuff, which I don't agree with. They should strip it back more than anything and to make it more interesting. But from their point of view, more games equals more TV time equals more money, which is, But like you said, if they were investing the money right, if the structure was right, and we could still play in the Premier League, you'd say, right, fair enough. But none of that happened. We'll talk about Ed Woodward and the Glazers now in a few minutes, but it feels like they went up behind all the fans' backs, basically doing it. And I know it's like with the FSG and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it was kind of a madness to think that you'd release something with so little detail that looked so poor, and that the fans would just go, "Yeah, this is great."
Yeah,
like what were they thinking sitting in a boardroom going, right, we're going to push the button on this now?
Yeah.
Like, Man United fans who are just as passionate as Liverpool fans, we were never going to agree to this as a fan base. You know what I mean? Not a chance.
And I was watching John W. Henry's interview earlier, and he was saying like he wouldn't have been on board if he didn't think the fans would go for it. You wonder what sort of world these people live in. I know it's all about money and all, but you think, what goes through your head? The fans aren't going to. And a fair play, I have to say, to Leeds fans the other night on Monday night, they were one of the first set of fans to go out and protest against it, and obviously Leeds wore the t-shirts and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're taking away the game from the people and putting it in the hands of businesses, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. The narrative the other day was an interesting one for me. I spoke to Dean earlier about it. This whole thing of greed. And I kind of was trying to make the point that greed in the game started in 1992.
Definitely. Well, Alan Sugar introduced what's his name? Malcolm to buy Sky Sports and make it into the big brand. And remember, Sky Sports had the big advertisement to all the players, and they used to do the big build up, like you said before, like a boxing match before Super Sunday and all. But Alan Sugar was the one that brought him over here, and obviously he had big interest in Spurs at the time as well.
Yeah, and it didn't feel so bad back then when it was like 15 quid a month.
Yeah, exactly.
Now it's horrific.
Yeah.
It didn't sit with me right. It was kind of like when people were given the narrative of greed, I was kind of going, lads, this is greed versus greed. This is bad versus bad.
Yeah,
exactly. This is just a hot potato at the moment.
Yeah. Well, someone sent me a message. Sky Sports News were in their element covering this, but last year they were looking for £15 a game during the pandemic to watch the football, and they're giving out about these being greedy, So it's 6 and one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah. It's hard to sit in your ivory towers, isn't it? When what you've been up to for the last nearly 30 years. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So then moving on. I mean, we get word yesterday morning early that Man City and Chelsea, fans started gathering outside grounds on Monday. There was protests. Chelsea came out that they were exiting it. They weren't going through with it. Man City, the same, followed suit. And then it was like a house of cards, basically. It just came down one after the other. Albeit Barcelona and Real Madrid still haven't come out yet, but that's just a timing thing.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, what was your thinking? I mean, lots of stuff sort of came out where you were obviously happy to hear that it had collapsed.
100%. And what got me was Chelsea and City were the first ones to come out. And then it was just all the American owners left. And I thought to myself, these are going to stay to the very, very last chance they have. But lucky enough, I was texting you. My phone was going like 90 last night watching Sky Sports News, and it was just relief, and then it was double delight. Then when the news broke up, the other lad leaving as well.
Yeah, see, I think it's hard to compare when we talk about the big six, if you like, in the league, because they're all structured differently financially. Like the Glazers would be more of a business, FSG would be more of a business, Man City would be more of that sort of Saudi wealth, if you like. Obviously Chelsea has Roman, so it's a different kind of thing when you're answerable to a set of accounts on a business,
100%.
as opposed to it being that kind of, let's call it natural wealth, if you like.
And what got me last night watching it was, and you'll probably agree, it was great to see just football fans around the world get together against this. All your colours are dropped. The only time it really happens is when, say, there's a disaster, like Hillsborough, the Munich disaster, everyone will come to one. So it was great to see that all fans united around the world last night as well, Albeit,
I would say that's pretty short-lived, because I see today already we have fan bases coming out from the other 14 calling for sanctions on the 6 and all sorts of things. But it was nice that the solidarity lasted about 24 hours.
Yeah, it's better than nothing, I suppose.
And then it was business as usual.
Exactly.
Ed Woodward resigning. I mean, that must have been champagne popping time for United fans, that it was obviously going to take a jolt in the system for these kind of things to occur.
Listen, I've wanted him gone for a long time. The one thing I will say to him, he took charge of the commercial and media side of things from 2007, and between 2000, at least when he came in, it was 48.7 million we used to make on that. By 2011, it was up to 117 million. So he had a good business sense. But he was never a football man. I think he was an accountant by trade. But from the transfer and the football point of view, I just absolutely hate him. And for me as well, I think this announcement came because the Glazers want to take a bit of heat off themselves as well. So that's why they're after announcing that they're like, right, because you've seen Joel, he never associates himself with anything. And he, like Gary Neville said, he put a signature on that statement about the Super League. So I think that had a lot to do with it, just to take the heat off themselves. But like I said, I'd be interested. It's an exciting time now to see who's going to come in, and hopefully we can change things around. But like I said, he's gone, and the next step is for the Glazers to go, in my opinion.
With everything over the number of years that the Glazers have been there, and the absolute neck of them on what they've done, even in terms of the purchase of the club and the amount of debt that they forced down on the club, coupled with the amount of money that they take out of the club every year. They probably take the most amount of money out of the club in comparison to any owner in any of the top clubs around the world. Do you think this will really bother them? Do you think they'll just barefaced stay? I mean,
well, from a report I read last night, is they're looking for 4 billion to sell, and we all know they bought us for a few $100 million. There's not many people out there, and I was just reading today, there's a Jim Ratcliffe, he owns Nice, he's worth 12.27 million. He's from Oldham, but he's a boyhood United fan. I'd like to see someone like him come in and try and buy the club rather than the kind of Saudi money, the oil money, as you say. But like in an ideal world, it'd be great to see the class of 92 buy the club, but obviously they don't have the finances to do that because they're United born and bred. So you want someone like that.
Yeah. I think what you'll see happening is the Glazers might put the club up for sale to save face, but what they might do is they might price it out of the market and go, well, listen, we put it out there, we gave you what you wanted, but no one wanted to buy it because 4 billion is outrageous.
And you know what FSU as well, Noel, all they worry about is their franchises back in America. We're the second thought to them, and that's all it is.
Yeah, absolutely. In terms of sanctions or punishment, as I said earlier, there's a number of teams and a number of fan bases that come out and goes, right, so what happens now to these 6? And, I would preface that by saying, like, be careful what you wish for the other 14, because it is truly those 6 that prop up the league without a shadow of a doubt. And it's those 6 that make that other 14 work in terms of financing and money and the pyramid and the allure and the draw of the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly.
And not to discredit the part that they play in the league.
Yeah, big time. But you got to look at it as well. You can't punish the players, the managers, or the fans, because we hadn't a clue about this and none of us wanted it. You have to punish the men that were involved and them only. And if if they got a fine, it'd be nothing to them. It'd be a drop in the ocean.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can look at taking away licenses or whatever, over in England, because obviously they have to have work licenses for working over there and stuff like that. I don't know whether that be a call or not, but listen, again, you have to. I could see it from both points of view. The other 14 are thinking, "Geez, you don't want to be here, and now he's stuck here." But then again, we didn't want to be there in the first place.
Yeah, so, I mean, the same as most of the, most of the other clubs. It's bar one or two, I'd imagine. It was kind of just, it was dropped on us like a hot potato, and we hadn't got a clue it was coming.
I think it would have suited the Spanish teams more so because we know how, United are in debt, but they're in a hell of a lot more debt than we are.
Yeah, well, it's not even when you look at United's debt. United manage their debt, and they're capable of creating the revenues. I think. The whole sanction and the whole punishment where I believe there probably has to be something.
Definitely.
I just don't know how you do it. Like as you said, you can't fine a billionaire. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Unless you
yeah.
fine him a billion.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
make him bankrupt, like, but
But
that's not gonna
I
happen.
don't know how you sanction them. Like you seen it today. You know, John Henry came out and he did a video and all. You know,
What did
this,
you think of that, Noel, by the way? Can I just ask you, sorry,
well,
from a
it's,
Liverpool point of
you
view?
know, as I spoke with Dean earlier on it, I mean, this is the fourth or fifth time now these guys have, you know, between ticket prices, between trying to charge the Spine Cop for its banners on the cop,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, trying to like trademark Liverpool, trying to trademark LA. You know, it's kind of one thing after another thing with them. They're just so disjointed from what I said to Dean earlier was the culture of the club. To me, the club is the players, the stadium, the fans, the coaching staff, you know, the tea lady, the physio,
Exactly, yeah.
you know, the people that put in the work out there, the street traders out on the street trying to create a living who've been doing it for years, you know, the history of the pubs around the club,
Yeah.
all that kind of thing. That's to me what makes the club. To me, the club is not the guys who sit in the boardroom and reap the rewards of the history of hard work that's gone into that club. Like as I said
Yeah.
to Dane, when I heard the grandson of Shankly talking about wanting the statue removed,
Oh, yeah, I
it
heard that.
broke my heart. It broke my heart. I was saying that always when we go out to Anfield, the first thing we do is we go get a picture with the statue. We always go and we go to the memorial for the Hillsborough disaster, pay respects to the 96.
Yeah.
These are the things that make our club what it is.
Yeah.
Likewise with Man United, you've got your statues there. You know,
Sir Mark Busby and,
you pay your respect to the Munich disaster with the clock and all this kind of thing. You know what I mean? In some respects, both clubs are very alike. And we're culturally ingrained. Like what I said today, and when you follow a club like United or Liverpool, it's a cultural lifestyle decision that you make. It's not you're just following some sports team once a week or something like that, you know. But I don't know how they're going to punish the clubs without hurting the league. I don't know how they're going to punish the clubs, you know, without hurting the players and the coaching and you know.
That's it. And like,
yeah, go ahead.
No, what I was gonna say is I seen John W. Henry come out and that. I know you know, he came out and apologized, and it probably wasn't worth anything, but he's the only owner that's actually come out and publicly apologized. So fair play to him in that sense, because I don't think you get that off our lot.
Yeah, and the one thing I've said to Liverpool fans as well is, with all the stuff that's gone on with FSG and the badness and stuff like that, they've also brought a lot of good. And you can't dismiss that. I mean, you can't dismiss, you know, that we follow a club that Hicks and Gillette basically destroyed. And, you know, we were hours away from going under. There's no doubt about it. And they did step in and save us. There's no doubt about it. I would also say that although we kind of sell players to buy players, they could have easily sold Coutinho. They could have pocketed the 140 million. They didn't have to give it to Jurgen Klopp to buy Virgil van Dijk or buy Alisson Becker. But they did. And I would say to the fans out there as well that the purchase of those two players is key to the success we've had over the last 3 years. Because you know yourself, I mean, League and Champions League winning teams are built on solid defenses and goalkeepers and stuff like that. They're not really built on front lines in reality. And I just think that made a huge difference. So I think it would be unfair to totally dismiss them out of hand. It's really hard to palate the video at times, you know, because we've been to this well so many times. But they've a lot of making up to do. And
they all do, don't they?
I just don't know whether the Liverpool fan base have the appetite to allow that making up to happen, and if they'll really believe it and if they are sincere. And the United are in the same boat as well. I mean, the Glazers have fucked that club for years.
Big time.
You know, and it's just, I don't know, what are they going to do now to make up for it? Are they going to come out and just give all these managers a war chest this summer? You know what I mean? Are Liverpool suddenly going to announce, well, we've signed Kylian Mbappe, so it's all good and everyone's going to be cheering? You know what I mean? Are United going to sign Jadon Sancho and Erling Haaland and go, look, we told you we had a plan. It's all good. This was the plan. You know what I mean? And, you know, while some fans will probably forgive them and go, okay, the real fans will see through that and go, "Come on, you're playing us here," you know.
Yeah, no, but in a normal world, you'd probably say, yeah, maybe. But now with the pandemic and all, I don't think anyone can afford to give them that war chest that they so fondly want, like, you know.
Yeah.
But like I'm looking at it, we were told, we were talked about on the Monday matchup. We'll probably have 100 million or so to spend, maybe. I'm sure what that get you, maybe 1.5 players at the
Yeah.
rate of the transfer market
If
is, you know.
if even. If even.
Exactly.
If
So
even.
it'd be interesting to see what they do. But like I say, it's fair play to him for coming out and apologise. I know I watched it. It looked a bit kind of, you know, wishy-washy. He was trying to save face, but at least he went out and did it. Where, like I say, all the other presidents, I haven't heard anything from Arsenal. I haven't heard anything from Chelsea and ourselves either, you know.
Yeah, it is. It is kind of it's a tough thing to do, you know, be on the cusp of jumping into something that's worth billions, and suddenly it all collapses. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Purely from a business point of view, forget about fan base and stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And it's, it's like investing in a business venture or buying stocks and shares on the stock exchange that collapse or something like that. You know what I mean? You're gonna feel hurt by that as well, but
Yeah.
they just didn't think the whole thing through. You know what I mean? I mean, you've John Henry coming out and he's apologizing. What reaction did he expect Liverpool fans to take?
Exactly.
I mean, is there no one there that's advising these guys that, like, how old is football in England now? You know what I mean? And it's culturally ingrained into the fabric of every football fan.
Yeah.
We live and breathe, and most of our moments in our life and the joy and the look forward that we have is centered around football. You know what I mean? Especially in the last year and a half of the pandemic, we ain't had a whole lot to look forward to except football.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the joy that it brings us, we weren't just going to roll over.
Yeah, no, and the owners only have to pick up a phone or a tablet and look at social media, look at your Facebook, Twitter pages. You'll see the reaction the fans give straight away, and it was all negative.
Yeah. But I suppose the problem when you make an announcement like that, you can't come out with another announcement an hour later going, "Oh no, we were only kind of thinking about it," because you're gonna look like an ass.
Yeah, we were dipping our toes to see, but no, like I had a feeling I was talking to a few of the lads there the other day. I had a feeling it wouldn't happen, but I didn't think it wouldn't happen this fast. I thought it might be a few weeks of to and fro, but 48 hours. Listen, I'm delighted, but I was also shocked that it happened that fast as well.
Yeah, I think it was critical to get it done and dusted pretty quick because the hassle it was causing, people were getting fed up. They were getting emotionally distraught about their clubs. These people who have invested their lives in clubs and in following their teams and all. But I just think it was getting a bit too much for people mentally as well, especially during the pandemic. But I also think it was a drop off as well. As you said the other day, you were watching the game the other day, and the second half meant nothing to you. The Premier League couldn't afford for that to continue on. They'd have to fix that fairly quick because there's a lot of big games coming up in the next 7 to 10 days.
Exactly,
that could be critical.
Because I was watching. Sorry, go ahead. No?
Yeah, and we had to have a race still for the top 4.
Yeah.
That couldn't go away. You know what I mean? Like, that's critical.
Because I had the Chelsea Brighton game on last night, but I was watching it, and I was going to have watching it with one eye and then the other eye's on my phone, looking at Sky Sports News on my phone and stuff like that. And I'd say the same for you, the Liverpool Leeds game. I know we were doing the matchup, but after that, it meant nothing. Yeah. And like you said, Chelsea are playing West Ham. That's a huge game with the top 4. I think you have Newcastle this weekend. That's another massive game. We're playing Leeds away and stuff. So there is big games now coming up. So it would have taken the focus off that and the gloss off the finish of the Premier League.
Well, see, as I said to everyone, I mean, what have you got? 5 or 6 cup finals left in order to reach the top 4. But I was looking at the Leeds game the other night. Now, even when they equalised, it was like, I was watching with Ben. Ben was still going, "Oh God, here we go," and I was there going, "But sure, it doesn't matter. We've already qualified. It's all good." Just messing with him, you know what I mean? Because I was trying to bring a bit of lightheartedness to it because he was as shell shocked as anyone. Going, "This is bullshit," you know what I mean? Yeah. And you could see it was obviously affecting the players and the manager and all. They were dropped in the meat grinder. Absolutely no respect.
I see James Milner after the game, you could see how much he didn't want to talk about and how much he didn't want to be a part of Liverpool being involved in it as well. Yeah. And I presume, I heard about Maguire and Shaw and stuff like that, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford. It's great to hear these stories of them, rebelling basically against the clubs.
Yeah. I was reading news today. Apparently, in line for the job is Edwin van der Sar.
Yeah.
About that could be tasty, couldn't it?
Yeah, listen, he was a great goalkeeper for us. Schmeichel actually recommended him to Ferguson after he left, but Ferguson never done anything about it. But yeah, he's been with Ajax the last few years, and he's been doing really, really well. He's well respected over there. He's got a great footballing head, as we all know, but apparently, from what I'm hearing, he's a great business head as well. So I think it'd be ideal. Now, whether we can get him or not is another thing. But I'd love to see him there, absolutely.
He certainly understands the fabric of United as well. And, he might be able to create that cultural link, between the club and the coaching and the players on the board, really, that's so disjointed.
Yeah.
And by being disjointed, it hampers your ability to succeed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because United obviously is a huge club, fantastic club, steeped in history and glory and trophies and everything else. But to see that club and what's happening there, and this is not a footballing thing.
Yeah.
This is a business thing that's causing this,
Exactly. Like I said, we don't want another Woodward situation where we're just getting a businessman. I think the Glazers have to step up and give us what we want. It'll keep us happy for a while. It won't keep us entirely happy, because we won't be happy until they actually leave and sell the club, which, like we just talked about, mightn't happen for a while now. So give us something to keep us happy for a while, and hopefully we can build on something. Obviously, we have second place cemented at this stage, I say. So Champions League football next season and go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, as always, a pleasure jumping on with you.
Thanks for having me.
Great to get the view from the United side of things on this. Because, as I said, each club is kind of a little bit the same, but a little bit different as well in terms of the way they finance and their approach. And obviously their modus in terms of getting involved in this as well. You know what I mean? But as always, head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. You'll also get audio versions of the show on Anchor. Obviously, hit like, subscribe, the whole lot. Always support us as much as you can. And we will chat again real soon. Mark, appreciate it.
Cheers for having me on. Appreciate it. Thanks a million.
Cheers, bud.